June 18th, Netroots Nation. I'm talking with, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Markos Moulitsas, the founder and publisher of Daily Kos.
And so how does it feel to be at a convention where 2,400 people are the product of your work?
People like to give me too much credit. I mean, what Daily Kos has done, what I've been able to do with Daily Kos, is provide a platform that enables people to do the kind of, really engage and organize and do cool things like Netroots Nation. And these are my people, so I love being here. And even though I'm actually fairly antisocial, there's a reason I'm a blogger and not somebody more social or politician, salesperson. But I mean, it's amazing because when you're on a computer, you sort of lose sight that there are actual people behind those comments, right? It all seems like just bytes on a screen, and then to go out and actually put some faces to the names and realize that that there's an actual human being behind every one of those visits actually is really energizing and empowering, and gives me a lot of motivation to keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, how did you start?
I started by just doing a blog, and at a time when nobody wanted. There were really no strong progressive voices in the traditional media, so the fact that I started the site isn't that dramatic. The fact that it grew as it did showed that there was a true market opportunity, and there's a real hole in the market because people were hungry for strong progressive voices and tools to allow them to organize, and nobody else had provided that.
And how did you make the transition from geek behind a computer to media star?
I've never made that transition. I'm still a geek behind the computer. Every time I play media star, it's very awkward. And I gotta say, I actually prefer being behind that monitor, with the warm glow of my laptop's monitor on my skin. I mean, that's when I'm happy, as opposed to sitting in front of a camera or a microphone of any kind.
Well, at this convention, Netroots Nation 2011, what are some of the things you've picked up? What did you enjoy?
What I love about this convention is that for the first time, I believe that sort of the online Netroots community is truly integrated very tightly with the offline unions and other issue groups. I mean, Wisconsin's a perfect example where once upon a time there was a lot of distrust between the old progressive organizations and the Netroots, right? We thought, well, you're a bunch of losers, right? This is early 90s. What have you won lately? Nothing. You failed. And they looked at us and said, oh, a bunch of dorks on a computer, boy, they're not going to change the world. And we really looked at each other with a lot of it was like disrespect. And suddenly, fast forward 9 years later, and you have a situation where nobody is in any doubt how valuable labor is, how valuable these other progressive organizations are. And I don't think there's a lot of doubt left in their side how valuable we are. I mean, Wisconsin's the perfect example. The traditional media didn't cover it. The reason it was a national sensation was because of the online community, not because of anything the traditional media did.
So do you feel that you've changed the world?
Have I changed the world?
Yeah.
We're on our way. We're working on it. If you start looking at everything that's broken, I mean, it's almost overwhelming. So you gotta take things in small little pieces and start slowly chipping away at what is really a corporate-owned country. The politics, almost a social structure. And create a society that is clearly more equitable, where people actually run the show, not moneyed and corporate interests. So we got a long way to go. This is not something we're going to solve this year, next year, 5, 10 years. I mean, this is a long-term struggle. But like I always like to remind people, after Barry Goldwater lost in 1964, conservative movement didn't go away in defeat, right? They organized, they built the institutions. It took them 16 years to win the White House, Ronald Reagan. It took him 30 years to win the House with Newt Gingrich in 1994. So they always look long-term. And we can't lose sight of the fact that, our problems are big, but we're going to continue to create the infrastructure that's necessary to support a truly progressive Democratic Party, and that once we have that, things are finally going to start getting better.
So you're in it for the long term?
You have to be. I mean, otherwise you're doomed to be completely disenchanted and cynical. You have to look at this as a long term.
Well, what advice would you give to anybody who wants to emulate Daily Kos or one of the social networks? How would you urge them to start?
To me, it's plug into one of the existing communities. It's probably the best way to get known these days, whether it's at a Daily Kos, a Fire Dog Lake, or America Blog, or Twitter, even Facebook. You can build networks on Facebook. So you use the existing tools. It's really hard to strike out on your own and try to build something on the side because so much of the traffic is already going to the big ones. And not even Daily Kos, right? They're all at Facebook and Twitter. So you have to plug into an established community and try to work your way up that way.
Ah, so Markos wants to be a traditionalist and plug into existing networks.
More like a realist. The opportunities to strike out on your own. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I mean, look at somebody like Nate Silver at the New York Times. I mean, he started diaring on Daily Kos, and now he's a hotshot blogger / columnist at the New York Times. So a lot of people are using sort of existing platforms as a way to get their voice heard by a existing audience. Building an audience from scratch takes a lot of, it's difficult. And I'm telling you, Facebook and Twitter are making it a lot more difficult. They're putting pressures on sites like Daily Kos even.
Well, how can you learn to trust someone on any of these media?
Oh, you got to be cynical about everything you read, and take everything with a grain of salt. And unless you can verify the facts directly, you just got to learn to be skeptical about everything you read.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
Hopefully, I see you in 2012 at a location that I'm not going to be able to disclose right now, because we're going to talk about that in a few minutes in the hall.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.